The Japanese tea ceremony, finding beauty in simplicity. Steam rises from a simple clay bowl, dancing in the morning light that filters through paper screens. In this moment, time seems to stand still. The only sound is the gentle whisper of hot water being poured, each movement deliberate, each gesture carrying centuries of meaning. This is more than just making tea. This is chanoyu, the Japanese way of tea, where a single cup can tell us more about beauty, mindfulness, and the human spirit than 1,000 words. Imagine walking through a garden path, each step taking you further from the chaos of modern life. The path seems random, yet every stone has been carefully placed to slow your pace, to help you notice the changing seasons in the moss and leaves around you. This is your first lesson in the tea ceremony, and you haven't even reached the tea house yet. As you approach the tea house, you must bow low to enter through a door so small that even a samurai would have to remove his swords and crawl inside. This isn't just architecture, it's philosophy made physical. In this space, social status means nothing. Whether you're a CEO or a student, you enter the same way, humbled by the same small door. This is where we begin to understand wabi-sabi, a concept that has shaped Japanese aesthetics for centuries. But what exactly is wabi-sabi? Americans might find it easier to understand by first thinking about what it isn't. It's not the perfect, symmetrical beauty of a Hollywood smile or the flawless shine of a new iPhone. Instead, imagine finding beauty in a cracked coffee mug that's been lovingly used for years, or the way afternoon light catches dust motes in an old room. Wabi-sabi embraces imperfection, impermanence, and the subtle marks that time leaves on everything it touches. The story of how this profound philosophy became intertwined with tea begins in the 16th century with a man named Sen no Rikyu. Born into a merchant family in Sakai, a bustling port city, Rikyu would revolutionize the tea ceremony from an ostentatious display of wealth into something far more profound. But to understand his revolution, we need to step back and look at what tea ceremony had become in medieval Japan. In those days, wealthy merchants and samurai lords would host elaborate tea gatherings, displaying their expensive Chinese tea utensils and artwork in grand rooms. These were more like art exhibitions than spiritual gatherings, with hosts competing to show off their collections. Tea rooms were large, ornate spaces filled with imported Chinese luxuries and gold-leafed decorations. Rikyu looked at all this and saw something fundamentally wrong. To him, the true spirit of tea was being lost in this parade of wealth. He began to develop a new way of tea, one that would strip away all unnecessary ornamentation and return to something more essential. His revolution started with the tea room itself. Instead of large, decorated spaces, Rikyu designed tiny tea rooms, some as small as 4.5 tatami mats, about 9 feet square. The walls were made of plain mud, the ceiling of rough wood. Where others used rare Chinese implements, he began using simple, locally made bowls and tools. He even commissioned craftsmen to make tea scoops from bamboo instead of ivory, and water containers from plain ceramic instead of precious metals. But perhaps his most radical act was incorporating misshapen, imperfect items into the tea ceremony. He would choose tea bowls that were slightly asymmetrical, or use water containers that had visible repairs. In doing so, he wasn't just being different. He was making a profound statement about beauty and worth. In one famous story, Rikyu was visiting a student who proudly showed him an expensive new tea container he had acquired. Rikyu barely glanced at it. Disappointed, the student asked what was wrong. "When you pay a lot of money for something famous," Rikyu replied, "you're not really buying the object, you're buying its fame." It was a sharp critique of the materialistic tea culture he was trying to transform. Through these choices, Rikyu wasn't just changing the aesthetics of tea ceremony, he was introducing a new way of seeing beauty itself. In his vision, the most profound moments of beauty were often found in the simplest things: the sound of water boiling in an iron kettle, the way shadows fell across a wooden floor, or the subtle imperfections in a hand-shaped tea bowl. Think about the modern American obsession with mindfulness and meditation apps. We spend countless hours trying to find moments of peace in our chaotic lives. Yet centuries ago, Japanese tea masters had already created a practice that achieved this state naturally through the simple act of preparing and sharing a bowl of tea. Consider what happens in a traditional tea gathering. As guests enter the tea room, they leave behind not just their shoes, but also their titles, their social media personas, their daily worries. The small door we mentioned earlier, called Nijiri-guchi, forces everyone to bow and enter in a position of humility. This physical act of bowing and crawling creates an immediate shift in consciousness. Inside the tea room, every detail has been carefully considered to create what the Japanese call ichigo ichi-e, one time, one meeting. This concept teaches us that each moment is unique and will never happen again exactly the same way. It's a reminder to be fully present, to appreciate the now. The host begins by cleaning each utensil in front of the guests. These movements aren't just practical. They're a choreographed ceremony that has been refined over centuries. Each motion is designed to be beautiful and efficient, like a dance performed in slow motion. To American eyes, it might seem unnecessarily complex, but there's profound meaning in this deliberate attention to detail. The preparation of the tea itself is equally meaningful. Matcha, the powdered green tea used in the ceremony, is measured with a bamboo scoop carved by hand. The host adds hot water and whisks the tea into a frothy brew, using a bamboo whisk with tines that were hand-split to create the perfect consistency. Each tool shows signs of wear, of human touch, another expression of wabi-sabi. The silence in these moments is as important as any action. In American culture, we often feel compelled to fill silence with conversation. But in the tea room, silence is valued as much as sound. The quiet bubbling of the water in the iron kettle, the soft swish of the bamboo whisk, the gentle clink of the tea bowl being set down. These sounds create what the Japanese call ma, or negative space, which gives meaning to everything else. Even the seasonal elements in the tea room tell a story. The scroll hanging in the alcove might show a simple ink painting of autumn leaves, while the flower arrangement might feature a single branch of cherry blossoms in spring. These aren't mere decorations. They're invitations to contemplate the changing nature of life itself. The tea ceremony also teaches us about community and connection. In a traditional tea gathering, guests sit close together on the tatami mats, sharing the same intimate space. When the first guest receives their bowl of tea, they don't immediately drink it. Instead, they turn to the next guest and say, "Osaki ni," please, before me. The next guest responds, "O temae ni," please, go ahead. This simple exchange reflects the Japanese value of putting others before oneself. These principles of the tea ceremony might seem far removed from our modern lives, but they're actually more relevant than ever. In an age of constant notifications, endless social media scrolling, and the pressure to always be on, the tea ceremony offers us valuable lessons about finding peace in simplicity. Think about how we typically drink coffee in America today. We grab it on the go, barely tasting it as we rush to our next meeting. We drink from disposable cups, rarely paying attention to the vessel itself. We're so focused on the caffeine boost that we forget about the simple pleasure of enjoying a warm drink in a quiet moment. Now imagine applying the principles of tea ceremony to your daily coffee ritual. What if you took just 5 minutes to really focus on the experience? Notice the weight of your favorite mug in your hands. Appreciate its imperfections. Maybe it's chipped on one side, or the glaze has subtle variations that you've never really looked at before. Listen to the sound of the liquid being poured. Feel the warmth spreading through your hands. This is what the tea ceremony teaches us, that mindfulness doesn't require a special room or expensive equipment. It simply requires our attention and appreciation for the moment we're in. As one tea master put it, the way of tea is nothing more than boiling water, making tea, and drinking it. The profundity lies in doing these simple actions with full awareness. The Japanese have a term, ichigo ichi, which we mentioned earlier but bears repeating because it's so crucial to understanding the tea ceremony. It means one time, one meeting. Every moment is unique and will never happen again exactly the same way. This isn't just about tea. It's about how we approach our entire lives. The concept of wabi-sabi also has profound implications for our modern lives. In an age of Instagram filters and carefully curated social media personas, wabi-sabi reminds us that imperfection is not just acceptable, it's beautiful. Those wrinkles around your eyes, they're not flaws to be corrected. They're marks of a life well lived. That old table with scratches and water rings, each mark tells a story of gatherings with family and friends. Even the small tea room itself offers lessons for our modern world. In an era of McMansions and endless accumulation, the tea room shows us that we don't need vast spaces or numerous possessions to create meaningful experiences. Sometimes, the smallest, simplest space can be the most profound. The tea ceremony's emphasis on seasonal awareness also has something important to teach us. In our climate-controlled environments, we've become increasingly disconnected from the natural rhythms of the world. But the tea ceremony reminds us to notice these changes. The first maple leaf turning red in fall, the earliest plum blossoms in spring. This awareness can help ground us in the natural world and remind us of our place within it. Perhaps most importantly, the tea ceremony teaches us about the art of slowing down. Every movement in the ceremony is deliberate and unhurried. There's no multitasking, no efficiency shortcuts. In a world obsessed with productivity and speed, this radical slowness might be exactly what we need. The beauty of these principles is that you don't need to become a tea master to benefit from them. You don't even need to drink tea. The wisdom of the tea ceremony can be applied to any activity, any moment. It's about approaching life with awareness, appreciation, and respect for the simple things that we so often overlook. As we conclude our journey into the heart of the tea ceremony, remember that its ultimate message isn't about the perfect way to whisk matcha or the correct angle to turn a tea bowl. It's about finding beauty in simplicity, peace in the present moment, and connection in sharing these experiences with others. In our increasingly complex and disconnected world, these might be exactly the lessons we need most. Thank you for watching this exploration of the Japanese tea ceremony. If you've enjoyed discovering these timeless principles and would like to learn more about Japanese culture and history, please consider subscribing to our channel and giving this video a thumbs up. Your support helps us continue sharing these fascinating stories of Japanese traditions and their relevance to our modern lives.